This video tends to the question why the process of documentation is important. A few weeks after I turned 19, I went on the first solo trip of my life. I spent 4 weeks in the mountains of northern Italy. All that I felt, discovered, and experienced there, I don't quite know how to express in words. But that is okay, since it is not what I want to focus on today in this video. What I do want to focus on, however, is my documentation of it. During my time in Italy, I grew the habit of recording some of the instances I experienced, and I started to establish the practice of essentially talking to myself whilst on camera, which I quickly began to notice helped me immensely to better understand myself and the moments I lived, and what kind of emotional abundance the different situations I went through offered to me. Returning back home, I spent the entirety of the following month creating a documentary film out of all that I had recorded in Italy. This project threw me into a deep love and appreciation for the editing and production process of film. I noticed how precise a moment can be described with the simple use of visuals and sound. It awoke an extensive fascination for the possibility of creating a description of my life in film. Documenting my experience with care, routine, and sincerity opened up my world and what I perceived as possible. And so, from that time on, I always kept in my mind and my heart that documenting is important. This is when I bought my first camera, which felt entirely surreal. But it is not this documentary in particular that I wanted to put my focus on in this video. It is more so the documentation itself and my thoughts on it that I want to express. The act that is documenting, as well as all of the potential documents that can be crafted. Italy, however, was just the beginning. It's where my exploration of the nature of documentation has started. This is where I began to see and to understand what all could be captured within a frame of motion. From then on, I kept documenting my life in all shapes and forms. I continued to explore different ways and mediums in which I could record my lived experience. And that is my first point, my first claim, if you will. I believe that anything can be a documentation. That all you do, all of your movements can be, with time, perceived as documents of your life, with the sole condition that something needs to be created within them, within your movements. And this leads me to the belief that for you to document your life, you don't necessarily need to have the intention for documentation. You simply have to create. Your creations become documents on their own. Intentional documentation, however, can of course capture your experience in beautiful and precise ways as well. It is simply a different angle that is being held on to, I believe. I think that by describing what I have lived and felt in whatever way I choose, I'm acknowledging my very own understanding of the occurrences. And it is this understanding that feels most intimate and truthful to me. Here, documenting brings me closer to myself. It allows me to study the way that I experience this world and in which ways and where the world and I approach one another. Looking back on all of my past creations feels like looking back on the past versions of myself. They allow me to explore how I evolved into the self I am now. They let me retrace how the shape of my life has been formed over time and how I have arrived here, in the present moment. This is exactly what makes my creations so incredibly valuable and irreplaceable to me. So all of this is why I believe that documenting is important.